Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and today's episode is more of a geographical episode. Okay, I mean it is more specific for people in the Lower Mainland, Vancouver here. But why I'm going to go over this particular topic is because it probably happens to be something similar to where you are yourself in whatever part of the world you are. And what that is places that we went to go get our anime. Okay, now in Vancouver, of course, we're really fortunate to have such a multicultural grid of people that come, and a lot of immigrants and that kind of stuff that come here. So we get a big cross section of different people that come and live in Vancouver. But that's probably not too different from a lot of other places in the world too, because again, you always have these, shall we say, little places, little Tokyo, little Italy, that kind of stuff. All these people of different ethnic groups kind of have a series of shops or a series of different little places, usually like food and delicatessens and restaurants and that kind of stuff, all similar type, all sort of in an area and in a row, and they call that the little area, for example, Tokyo or whatever, if you will, little Chinatown, if you will, as well, that has all those different type of stores of that particular culture, and then that's where you can get that kind of stuff. So, just like in San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Jose, they had places which had Japanese kind of stores. Seattle has their international district, things like that. Even San Francisco, that entire the International Plaza, where it has the Japan Center and all that kind of stuff, all sort of there. So there are different places that have this kind of thing going on. But I'm just going to focus on Vancouver, and then you can kind of translate it to what you sort of have in your area. Okay. So the first store that I'm going to mention is Sophia's bookstore. Okay. Now, this is basically your typical sort of Japanese bookstore, family owned, that resided downtown on Granville and Nelson. Okay. That's not there anymore. They've moved to a different location up on Hastings, but at the end it's now changed to a tattoo parlor. But it's basically a small little store owned by family owned, and what they did is they basically ordered books and other type of material in from Japan into their store, and then they basically supplied Japanese books and textbooks, dictionaries, and that kind of stuff for some of the schools, obviously students of the universities and that kind of stuff. And the other thing that they also did a lot of supplies of is periodicals or magazines that come out every month, because then people could then subscribe to Japanese versions of particular magazines that would come every month. And one of the things I got there when I first found this store was the Japanese subscriptions to anime magazines like Anime V, New Type, and Animedia. Those are the primary three big titles which will keep you up to date with all the different anime. So I started a subscription for those every month, got all three, and basically that gave me the ability to know what's coming out in Japan, pretty much that month, or in the previous month that came out, the magazine comes out. I'm up to date with what OVAs and movies and what's happening on the TV scene, that kind of idea. Okay, it also gave me the ability to pick certain things, advertisements and that kind of stuff in these magazines, and bring it up to them and say, hey, I'd like to order this thing, and I can point to it, and then they can grab all the information off of that, usually the yen price, who it's made from, the distributor, that kind of stuff, and then they were able to order it. And surprisingly enough, they were pretty good at getting most of the things that I actually ordered, especially when it was a book or CD, laserdisc, even on the occasional part, I was able to get the odd toy, because I remember one of the things I really wanted was the transforming sword that the Red Riding Hood Cha-Cha got. I remember I saw the TV advertisement of it inside a Red Riding Hood Cha-Cha tape, and then I was able then saw that same ad pictured in a new type magazine, and then basically I was able to bring that magazine to them, and then they were able to order that in. So that's one of those things that that a sort of one of these bookstores, Japanese bookstores that could order in. Now, later as anime and the expansion of the Chinatown and that kind of stuff in Richmond, and they built this mall called Yaohan Center, basically a Taiwan-owned mall, which has a Japanese bookstore called Iwase Bookstore in that. So this is now a larger mall-based bookstore owned by a chain called Iwase. Again, other people are more familiar with things like Kinya Kanua, which have branches, both in California. Of course, Seattle still has a Kinya Kanua bookstore in there, and they were the first sort of bookstore that actually carried a large number of art books as well as subscription stuff. They also had a videotape rental section, which they recorded a lot of TV programming across many different channels, different genres, and that kind of stuff. And you were able to get in there and rent that kind of stuff. They rented CDs. They had a very deluxe ordering section. So then again, when it became more convenient to go to Richmond to go get get books and that kind of stuff, as well as to go to all the various arcades and whatnot and food places and that kind of stuff in Richmond, I started going there a lot more. Again. They were really good because the fact they had lots of good stuff that was on sale. They always were selling off a lot of their old tapes really, really cheap, so that you got a lot of the good media there, as well as they had so much stuff that you could rent. I rented a lot of stuff that had to do with music, and of course lots of anime as well, because they also kept up with a lot of the anime TV series and that kind of stuff, and kept them in order by date. So they actually had episodes of things from this particular day to this particular day, and then you knew that you could get, like, say for example, 4 episodes a month from them that they recorded off TV, full with commercials and everything, and so you could get all the ads, and you could all go whatever news that happens. Sometimes you get that odd occasional episode of something, and then all of a sudden rolling across the bottom of the screen saying, oh, there's an earthquake or there's a tsunami happening in this particular place. That kind of information would all show up on the VHS tape, because again, it was recorded live on TV at the time in Japan, and they just shipped the tapes over to this bookstore. All right. So Iwase was very popular for that. But they, again, weren't the only people that were doing video rental. There was a lot of, again, smaller, family-owned kind of stores like that all around Vancouver. Kiku Video was another small little video store. Again, family-owned little store, tucked away on like 22nd and Renfrew across from the public library. They basically did only just videotape rentals. Okay, so again, they did like what Iwase did. Except that's all they concentrate on. Is they basically recorded. They had somebody in Japan basically do videotape recording, timer recordings of like all the various different channels and different TV programs out there, and they basically allowed people to watch anime, dramas, music programming, and that kind of stuff, and then basically go in there and rent them. Based on month or day or whatever, and they just have them all on the shelf, and then you can just basically pick them out and then sign them out. And then of course what I did, we used those for to see what was going on. I used it to finish off a bunch of series, especially things like Gundam and that kind of stuff. It was always really, really popular. City Hunter, I remember getting lots of episodes for. That's probably one of the first places I encountered Orange Road. Okay, but again, not everywhere has a Japanese video store, for example, that rents just Japanese videos. Okay, sometimes it's even more remote and even harder to get than that. One of the first places that I went to get tapes of this sort of tapes from Japan is this small little grocery store on really close to Main and Hastings. Okay, their main thing was a Japanese grocery store, so they sold a lot of products, mostly food products from Japan. So a lot of candies, a lot of those Japanese noodles and spices and that kind of stuff is what they sold in their store. But one of the things that they kept on top of all the freezers and all the coolers and that kind of stuff they had was they had this big row on top of all the vegetables and all that kind of stuff on top of the freezer. They had this one row of video cassettes, and again, a lot of them were just recorded in like 4-hour or 6-hour speed, and it just had random episodes of Orange Road and Dragon Ball and Zeta Gundam and City Hunter, but they were all mixed up. They weren't in order. They were like, and even from on the same tape, they weren't even in order. So you'd think maybe episode 1 of City Hunter, and then later on the tape they'd have episode 2, and then later on the tape they'd have episode. these episodes were just scrambled all over the place. And sometimes you get. Sometimes they were in a sequence where it was City Hunter followed by Dragon Ball, followed by Orange Road, followed by let's say Maison Kaku or something, or Zeta Gundam or whatever, and they'd be like those same 4 episodes recorded week after week. But no, some of them were just they're all totally out of order. Sometimes you get Orange Road first, sometimes you get Dragon Ball first, and episodes are missing, and they're all scrambled, and you're trying to follow on one tape. And then the next episode is on a totally different tape. It was a total mess. So I remember I had to go there to get them and watch them at first, and then later on I had to re-rent them again, so I could try to make a tape to put the episodes in the correct order. So to retape them again and put them in the right order, so that I have all the Zeta Gundams together in order according to this place. So again, in the early days, that's how we had to do it. We had to basically go to these, specialty type stores. In this case, this was a Japanese grocery store that actually had videotapes of my, things like Gundam and City Hunter that I really, really liked. That I had to get. Another store, which is very close to this store, it was just on Hastings Street, just really close to the DETS there, close to the Gore. Was one called Fuji Video. Okay, now this is one of these again small, owned by kind of a Japanese person that was really interested in getting a Japanese only video rental store. Okay, so this is sort of one of the very first ones of the store, and he had not too much of the stuff that you recorded off TV week after week. No, he had more of the actual movies. For Japanese movies, okay? Sure, lots of Japanese samurai type movies like Zawuchi and those kind of things like that. He also had a lot of actual movies, Tokyo Love Stories, that kind of thing. He also had lots of like drama shows where they're all done in sets, so very popular, like TV dramas, TV movies, that kind of thing. I remember one of the things that he had was the live action kind of cat's eye type of thing that he had lots of. I remember the another one that he had was one called Sweet Angel, which is the little mini series that the group Max showed up in. Okay, but the key that he had was he had a small little section of pure anime titles. Again, these are sort of like the original Japanese tapes of anime. Okay, so things like Space Cobra, Captain Harlock, Dagger Kumuli, Dirty Pair, Project Eden, the Project Eiko movie. I remember Future War was a really popular one. All these little kind of really archaic classics on tape. What he had in his store. So again, this is another place that I was able to get some anime in the very early beginnings of that in that time. Okay. Again, those are the places along Hastings, which is our not so nice area of town. But in the sort of more nicer part of town, which is along Robson Street, That's the sort of more expensive commercial district. It was also a place where a lot of Japanese, students and exchange students and that kind of stuff came in. Now, of course, it's slowly transformed to more Korean town, but back in the time, it was still pretty much primarily Japanese area. But all the way down at the bottom of Robson Street, towards the beach and whatnot, they had a mall which had a small little bookstore. I do believe it was called the Sunday Bookstore. Carried mostly magazines rather than books and small little novelettes and that kind of stuff. But it also had a very small video rental section. Again, mostly videos that were recorded on a weekly sort of basis from TV. A lot of that kind of stuff was on there. Again, further up the street, there's this place called Kobinya, which is basically a Japanese convenience store. Upstairs on the second floor of Kobinya, there is this entire section of videotape rentals. Again, a lot of Japanese movies, as well as TV series that was recorded off TV. Maybe not quite as large a selection as, let's say, Waze or some of the private video stores like Kiku and that stuff. But again, sometimes they get different feeds and different TV recordings, which may show up a little differently. So it's always good if one place is missing an episode, you can go to this place and maybe they might have that same episode or same week where maybe that episode wasn't missing or canceled or shifted or whatever due to some other event. Convenient had that. They also had a small little MIDI karaoke room. So you could do karaoke off of Laserdisc or off of their little MIDI thing upstairs of Kobinya. So it's kind of like one of those Japanese convenience stores with a whole bunch of other stuff in it. I'll get into an episode about karaoke a little later, so you want to hit subscribe and you'll get that one. That might be an earful if you like. Okay, so Kobinya was a good one. There was also a really small one that was sort of not on Robson Street, but was one street off of Robson Street. Again, it was short-lived, but basically it was a small little video rental store, but it also had more games, okay? And again, for all those people who were looking for, at that time, PlayStation 1 games and, the odd, maybe... Sega Saturn type of thing and whatnot, and those type of games there. We went there to go and see what they had and that kind of stuff in that store too. Again, that's not there anymore. But again, these are these little places that sort of popped up and maybe not exactly what you would think that they would be. Like, they're not going to be like shall I say, the anime superstore or anything like that, or for example, nothing like my store, which is specifically anime based. But mixed in with a grocery store or another type of Japanese type of store, you can find that kind of stuff. Half Moon Books. Okay, they were at the bottom of Southwest Marine Drive in Canby. Which of course is no longer there anymore, as the Marine Drive SkyTrain station has now turned that entire corner into condos. All right, but they were a good place because they sold a lot of used or second-hand books and CDs and games and that kind of stuff. So there was always a good place to get good books and that kind of stuff at a discounted price. On the same token, there was also the same similar type of store that opened up on Howe Street called Book Off. It's part of the Japanese chain. And again, they sold used books and CDs and and that kind of and magazines and that kind of stuff. And it was a pretty good place to go to because there's some good deals on some books and that kind of stuff. They had a little bit of an issue of trade-ins of DVDs and CDs because again there's this this sort of bylaw for to protect against people who like steal CDs and that kind of stuff. So there was a little bit of an issue there, but they had a really good price on a lot of the Japanese CDs, and again I picked up a lot of stuff from them. It was a great place to go, but unfortunately, that place had closed down, and again, they didn't open up another branch anywhere else. But again, that was a good place to go to get that kind of the merchandise. around here. And again, if you have any of that kind of stuff in your area, definitely check it out. It was really good. Okay. Now these are just the sort of sort of the mini little places that you could get Japanese animation. Now, the other thing that you should also keep in mind is that Japan, or Little Japan, wasn't the only place that you could get stuff. Chinatown was also a really good place to get Japanese animation stuff. Maybe a little bit harder to find. You had to kind of know what you're looking for, but even in old Chinatown, downtown in Vancouver, I was able to go down there and get a lot of things like Sailor Moon cards, figurines and that kind of stuff was a really popular thing to get downtown. Stationery and that kind of stuff. All things that you could get in downtown Chinatown. Later on, when in Richmond, when they got the Yahuan Center, Fairchild Mall, Aberdeen, of course, all those places also started carrying a lot of anime type things. And again, you can get cards. We were able to get games. We were able to get different types of like anime CDs and that kind of stuff. All started showing up on many different little places and that kind of stuff. Again, you got to remember that they may not be from Japan. Okay, a lot of the stuff, for example, like CDs and that kind of stuff, would be from Taiwan or from Hong Kong. So again, you got to know what you're sort of getting. You're running along that borderline between, is it really authentic? Is it a different language version, different type of thing, different subtitles, different back language, things like that. Especially when you get into rentals of things like VCDs and that kind of stuff. But again, for those people who didn't have, let's say, a really large Japanese community or Japanese community store, don't forget that Chinatown, your Chinatown, may have something of that same thing, and that's what happened in Vancouver. A lot of that stuff was available, even in small sort of, like, shall we say, touristy stores, like stores. For example, there was this place in Yahuan Center. It was called Fashion 99. In the back of the store, they sold, or they had a little shelf which had all the various different types of SM record CDs. And again, I'd go in there sometimes and I'd spend, easily sometimes $100 buying CDs. I know that another place that was really popular was in Parker Place. There was a whole bunch of different, kind of movie shops which sold a lot of VCDs and that kind of stuff and DVDs. That was also a really popular place to get a lot of anime, box sets and that stuff, especially from like Hong Kong and Taiwan and whatnot. But it also allowed me to get a lot of VCDs and stuff for shows that I was thinking of maybe subtitling, especially shows that I was really interested in, but I couldn't find translation or couldn't get a Japanese person to translate it. For example, Metal Jack was one of those type of shows that that I had. Gal Kiva was another show that I got basically translated out of the Chinese version in order so I can get the translation version to do Chinese, to do the English subtitles for that particular series. So again, I tried to get my translations, directly from the Japanese version if I could, but again, lacking translators in Japanese, I switched over to Chinese and got Chinese translators to translate the Chinese text, and then basically have it, checked and rewritten for the Japanese version. All right. So, again, for those people that started anime in the early days. Again, we had problems trying to find anime. We just couldn't go to the internet and just download it because again, the internet wasn't fast enough. We actually had to find a physical form of this media. So whether it be on video cassette or on VCDs or laserdiscs or on on DVDs or whatever that we had, or even music for CDs, we actually had to go and buy a copy, rent a copy of these particular things as long as we can find it. Where can you find it? You're not going to find it at your local Future Shop or your Walmart or Best Buy or anything like that. You're just not going to find it there. You're going to have to find some sort of, shall we say, ethnic type of store, and you'd be surprised. On the outside, they may sell fruits and vegetables and that kind of stuff, but you look inside, and as I said, looking on top of the coolers, I saw a row of video cassettes, and just looking at the Japanese titles on the side spines of all the video cassettes, I realized, hey, that's like Dragon Ball and like Gundam and like City Hunter and like other types of anime. And so again, you don't know what you're gonna find until you go into one of those type of stores. So you find things in weird spots, but you gotta be looking. All right. So, like they say in the ending of Heavy Metal Elgheim, until next time, see you.